News Now is brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, Docomo Pacific, island-wide, worldwide, the choice is clear. And Micronesia Renewable Energy. Go solar for zero money down. From the Pacific News Center in Hagåtña, Guam, here's Clint Rogel and Janella Carrera. Betsy Brown, Roselle Romanos, PNC Sports with Blake Watson, and weather with Rebecca Kim. With your news now.
Hafa, good evening, and thanks for tuning in to PNC's News Now. I'm Clint Rogel.
And I'm Janella Carrero. Thanks for tuning in. Your top story tonight, 2 suspects were arrested last night in connection with an armed robbery at AH Market in Barrigada. PNC's Roselle Romanos talks with police spokesman officer AJ Balahaja, who says the Guam Police Department is proud of how quickly the arrests were made.
2 men are behind bars for the armed robbery of AH Market in Barrigada last night. GPD spokesman officer AJ Balahaja says officers responded to the hold-up alarm at about 9:16 p.m.
They went ahead and responded, and when they arrived, the suspects had left, but they were able to get the information in regards to the description of the vehicle as well as the suspects.
Within moments after the description of the possible suspect vehicle was aired over the police radio, a vehicle matching the description was located and pulled over by Blas Street in Barrigada. Arrested were 27-year-old Tommy Joe Flores and 22-year-old Scott Martin Flores from Totu for possession of a deadly weapon in the commission of a felony, possession of a Schedule II controlled substance, and conspiracy to commit a felony. Officer Balahaja tells us how GPD feels about the quick arrests.
It shows that when the community and the police department work together, the apprehension of suspects is a lot higher. Even if after the fact, if somebody were to come forward and provide information, that usually leads to further investigation and ultimately the arrest of a suspect.
Roselle Romanos, PNC News.
The male police officer at the Agate precinct that has tested positive for ICE has resigned. GPD spokesman Officer AJ Balahaja said he was a veteran police officer 1 and had been working for GPD for 7 to 8 years. Balahaja told PNC that on October 24th, Agate precinct contacted the chief's office with concerns about a particular officer's behavior. Chief Fred Berdallo ordered a drug test and ordered their K-9 unit to sweep both the Agate and Hagåtña precincts. Balahaja says both precincts turned up clean, but the officer did not. The officer resigned while going through the administrative process and internal affairs investigation. Balahaja says it's not as easy as one may think to fire an officer because they have rights that are protected by the civil service.
Grisly details in the murder trial of John Castro, who's accused of killing his girlfriend's barely 2-year-old child. Little Alzana suffered an intensely painful death, according to medical examiner Dr. Aurelio Espinola. Fresh and old bruises, old fractures, contusions, and lacerations to internal organs. Medical examiner Dr. Aurelio Espinola says 23-month-old Alzana Latino was a physically abused child for a long time, and her death an extremely painful one. One of her more recent injuries, he says, was a laceration to the liver that happened just hours before she died.
And so when a liver is bleeding into the body cavity, what does that mean for the patient?
Well, the bleeding here was not much, but the pain will be intense.
What caused Alzana to succumb was a ruptured small intestine. John Castro, the boyfriend of Alzana's mother, Susana Latino, is charged with murder, assault, and child abuse. Police believe he punched Alzana in the stomach, which in turn ruptured her small intestine. Now, Castro claims he has no idea how Alzana died, but says he may have rolled over her in his sleep the night before.
If someone rolled over on someone else in their sleep, would that cause a rupture?
No, sir.
Even if it's a baby and an adult human being?
That's right.
And why would that not cause a rupture?
Because rolling over a baby will not produce a force, a local force. It is a blunt force.
Dr. Espinola explains that the contents of the small intestine would have leaked out slowly, and because those contents contain loads of bacteria, it would have caused peritonitis or an infection.
When the rupture occurs, the baby will experience the pain already.
And then what about afterwards? Does the pain start to dull, or?
The pain will stay, and later on the pain will be generalized in the abdomen.
Dr. Espinola says he concluded manner of death to be a homicide because the baby had old and new wounds, and the story about rolling over the child is not a plausible one. However, under cross-examination, defense attorney Suresh Sampath points out that the injury could have been caused by anyone, and he suggests that it may have even been the baby's mother, since she claims to have moved Alzana from the mattress to the crib around 4 in the morning.
And the injury to the liver was a painful injury.
It's a very painful.
Very painful injury. The kind of injury that you wouldn't expect to find a child sleeping through that kind of injury.
That's right.
Trial continues next Monday in Judge James Canto's courtroom.
88 Department of Education schools have been broken into in the last 3 years, including a break-in at George Washington High School just yesterday. Meanwhile, funds that were set aside to purchase security equipment for the island schools have gone unspent. PNC's Betsy Brown reports.
The geckos may be the latest victims of school vandalism, but they aren't alone. 6 Department of Education schools have been broken into since August 1st of this year. And while windows and doors are busted for thieves to get in, $800,000 in local funds designated for security equipment have gone unspent. The Secure Our Schools Act, introduced by Speaker Judy Wonpat and signed into law in April of 2013, put the General Services Agency in charge of the procurement. But DOE Deputy Superintendent Rob Millay says his department has been doing everything they can to help move the process forward.
The law is pretty clear about who's responsible for the procurement on that. So when we've been called to assist and help move it forward.
GSA advisor Robert Kono sent the scope of work for the invitation for bid on to DOE late yesterday afternoon. And Millay told PNC this morning that DOE's legal counsel is reviewing it, and he hopes to have it back in GSA's hands within a couple of days. Once it's approved, Kono says there are still a few hurdles to clear before bidding can begin.
We believe that we will have a pre-bid conference, which means all the vendors interested in participating have an opportunity to come in. We think that also there'll be a school site inspection.
But while schools wait for the procurement process to move forward, Millay and Guam Police spokesman officer AJ Balahaja hope the community will do their part to prevent break-ins and catch those responsible for the break-in at GW this week.
It's not a matter of snitching or it's a matter of pride, right? Having pride for your school. And if you have pride for your school and what your school has, or the limits of what your school has, then you certainly want to take care of what you have.
While installing security equipment does not guarantee a stop to vandalisms, Millay and Balahaja agree it would be a strong deterrent.
But one way or another, when you know schools do have these equipments and there's going to be a response, folks don't have time to do what they did over at George Washington. Yeah,
it's definitely a deterrent for individuals to pick that particular place. I think that if they know that this system is in place, they're going to target a different location.
FB Leon Guerrero Middle School, Carbolito Elementary, MU Lujan, CL Titano, George Washington High School, and the newly renovated Untalan Middle School have all been hit by vandals this school year. Betsy Brown, PNC News.
And Speaker Judy Wonpat, who authored the Secure Our Schools Act, told PNC today that she's pleased that the edited IFB has been sent on to DOE, and she hopes the procurement process can now move forward. She added, quote, "Every time a school gets vandalized, I am reminded that this process has gone on for too long."
Guam Guardsman Captain Noel Espino remains in serious condition at a Kentucky hospital after he was pinned between an SUV and a restaurant building. Captain Espino is with the Guam Army National Guard and was in Lexington, Kentucky back in September for training when a firefighter allegedly pinned him between his SUV and a restaurant building. That firefighter, Jared McCargo, was just indicted by a grand jury this week on charges of assault, criminal mischief, leaving the scene of a crash, and DUI. Lexington police say McCargo was drunk when he attempted to parallel park, crushing Espino into the wall. Even the building sustained damage. According to police, the firefighter fled the scene and hid in some bushes. Guam National Guard spokesperson Major Josephine Blas.
He's still right now in serious condition, which, you know, if you want to say it's good news because he was in critical condition for so long. So now that he's been moved to serious condition, you know, they're still caring for all his injuries.
The Espino family says Blas is doing everything they can to raise money for Captain Espino as his wife quit her job here in Guam to be able to support her husband in Kentucky. The family has also set up a GoFundMe account if you would like to donate.
I know the families are doing a lot. Some are doing fundraisers. Those are not Guard-led fundraisers, but we are supporting them as much as we can. And we ask the community for their continued prayers so we can make as much of a full recovery as possible.
Captain Espino is a survey team leader in the 94th Civil Support Team. If you would like to donate to his GoFundMe account, you can find the link on our website at pacificnewscenter.com.
And the Guam Election Commission has not certified the results of the general election, and they won't be able to do so until after November 19th. Here's why.
We will need to give the off-island ballots enough time to get here based on law, and that is 10 working days. And so November 4th, 10 working days will put us at November 19th.
Thus, Guam Election Commission Executive Director Maria Pangilinan says the GEC can't tabulate provisional ballots, much less certify the results of the 2014 general election, until after November 19th. Meanwhile, the GEC will be working on addressing administrative complaints that were heard during last night's meeting.
So we went through all 8 written complaints that were submitted to GEC, and we will respond to them. I need to collect some more information on certain things, so and then legal counsel and I will put together the responses and send them out.
The complaints range from locked ballot boxes to some precincts opening up late, to ASIN having too small of a polling site. Pangilinan also says they will soon begin to count provisional ballots and write-ins.
We will start looking at write-ins on Monday at 10 o'clock, where we will pull out the cast ballots again and sort them out for write-ins and start recording the write-ins.
Again, the GEC will not be able to certify the election until after November 19th.
All right, well, let's check in with who's standing by with sports. Blake Watson.
JFK trying to get to 4-0. They're already undefeated. Can they get one more? We'll look at who they're playing tonight in girls basketball. Also, we have baseball results from yesterday. Father Duenas, JFK, who wins, who doesn't? I'll tell you, coming up in sports. Take it away, man. I think you got it, man. What he said.
Want to know how to win some great prizes in the comfort of your own home?
We'll be letting you know what Saturday Night Bingo is all about. Stay tuned.